The United States Africa Command, known to the world as AFRICOM. Established in 2007, its mission is to build defense capabilities, respond to crises, and deter transnational threats in Africa. But we must ask, security for whom? Stability on whose terms? Prosperity that benefits which people? At the helm of this organization stands General Michael Langley, the first African American to lead AFRICOM. He speaks of partnership and shared goals, shifting from physical troop presence to technology-based monitoring. Is this a retreat or a more insidious form of oversight? The existence of a foreign military command dedicated solely to Africa raises profound questions. Why a separate command unless Africa is seen as a unique theater requiring special attention? General Langley is not just a military commander. He embodies a foreign power's sustained interest in our continent. AFRICOM's presence to fight terrorism raises the question, does it address root causes or entangle us in geopolitical struggles? The shadow of AFRICOM is long, reaching into the heart of our sovereignty. AFRICOM's presence on African soil is laden with the weight of history. For centuries, our continent has endured the gaze and grasp of external powers. The colonial era may have ended, but its structures and economic imbalances linger. AFRICOM feels like a continuation of this legacy, a modern iteration of foreign dominance. A military command headquartered in Stuttgart, Germany, making decisions affecting millions of Africans. The recent withdrawals of U.S. forces from Niger and Chad signal a growing unease. The argument that AFRICOM is here to protect us is familiar, echoing colonial justifications. When our security depends on external powers, are we truly secure? The healing of our wounds must come from within, driven by African solutions and leadership. AFRICOM risks perpetuating a cycle of dependency, undermining our sovereignty. The persistence of foreign influence like AFRICOM is often enabled by our own leaders. When leaders welcome external military forces, it feels like a profound betrayal. This is not about rejecting all international cooperation, but about the nature of that cooperation. Why would African leaders embrace a presence viewed with suspicion by their citizens? Perhaps they believe it necessary for security, lacking resources to address threats independently. But we must ask if this aid comes without strings, reinforcing an imbalance of power. When leaders endorse AFRICOM, they risk legitimizing a framework that undermines regional cohesion. The people have a right to ask, at what cost to our sovereignty and dignity? AFRICOM presents itself as a force for peace, a partner in stability. Their mission statements are filled with words like capacity building and humanitarian assistance, but we must look deeper to understand the full picture. AFRICOM's primary mission is the strategic protection of Western interests. Africa is rich in resources, with a youthful population and key maritime routes. Control over Africa means access to resources and countering other global powers. The fight against terrorism provides a justification for military presence and intervention. The shift towards technology-based monitoring signifies a more pervasive form of control. Drones and surveillance systems create a new kind of dependency. We must ask, whose peace is it and at what price? The power to define and name is a tool of foreign domination. Movements seeking self-determination often find themselves labeled as terrorists. Legitimate grievances can be dismissed, and struggles for liberation reframed as threats. Who decides what constitutes terrorism versus a liberation movement? AFRICOM's mandate to counter terrorism can justify intervention and influence. This labeling stifles dissent and discourages grassroots movements. The fight against terrorism must be led by Africans with a commitment to justice. It must not become a pretext for silencing African voices demanding change. Mali has become a symbol of resistance against foreign influence. Amidst coups and insurgencies, Mali demands a shift in international partnerships. The Malian people have repeatedly expressed frustration with foreign military presence. They demanded the departure of French forces and the UN peacekeeping mission. This was a cry for partnerships based on mutual respect and Malian-defined priorities. Western capitals criticize Mali's shift, fearing loss of influence. Mali's defiance is a powerful force, inspiring other African nations. It reminds us of the desire for true independence and self-determination. Africa is blessed with abundant natural resources, yet these riches have been a source of sorrow, attracting exploitation. Wealth is extracted, leaving behind environmental degradation and social disruption. Trade agreements often favor manufactured goods from the north over raw materials from the south. AFRICOM's presence cannot be divorced from this economic reality. Securing access to resources and protecting Western commercial interests are part of the calculus. How can Africa ensure its wealth benefits its own people? This requires strong governance, transparency, and a unified African stance. Investing in education and technology to develop our own industries is crucial. The fight for Africa's soul is linked to the fight for control over its resources. Divide and conquer is an ancient strategy to weaken Africa. Colonial powers drew borders, pitting ethnic groups against each other. In the post-colonial era, new forms of division are encouraged. Foreign influences can exacerbate these divisions, creating dependencies. Bilateral security relationships undermine collective African security efforts. Summits hosted by global players can shape Africa's agenda to external priorities. AFRICOM's selective partnerships can sow mistrust and disunity. A strong Africa speaks with one voice, integrating economies and defining its own path. Africa is the cradle of humanity, a continent of ancient wisdom and resilience. We have endured enslavement, colonialism, and post-independence betrayals. Our potential for greatness remains undimmed. The path to self-determination requires African unity. Strengthening continental institutions and fostering intra-African trade is essential. Resisting external control is an act of self-preservation. We must question every partnership and scrutinize every offer of aid. Reviving African pride and teaching our true history is crucial. To every African, arise. Let us harness our resources for our own benefit. Our destiny is in our hands. Let us seize it.